Sitting with pain, a journey back to the inner self. Throughout the human journey, no one escapes suffering. Whether it's loss, betrayal, illness, or the invisible wounds of the heart, pain is a lesson that none of us can avoid. But sadly, most of us are taught to run from pain rather than learning how to live with it as a natural part of being alive. With more than 30 years of spiritual practice and guiding others in meditation, I've come to see that true liberation doesn't come from banishing pain. It comes from learning to sit with it, to open ourselves up and listen to it, and to see it for what it really is. Pain, when touched with mindfulness, no longer devours us like a black hole. It becomes a doorway into the depths of our inner world, a place rich with untapped wisdom and strength. The Buddha never taught us to conquer pain. He simply showed us how not to let pain become suffering. Because pain is a sensation, but suffering is a choice. A sincere spiritual seeker must realize pain is not the enemy. It is a strict but wise teacher. It comes to remind us of impermanence, to urge us to release our attachments, and to help us see what truly matters. Sitting with pain is not an act of weakness. It is a form of noble courage. The courage not to react, not to resist, not to judge, but simply to be present with what is. In each breath, in each moment that we return to the sensations of pain in our body, we are forging a resilient spirit. When discomfort arises, instead of immediately covering it with work, distractions, or pleasures, try stopping, breathing deeply, and whispering to yourself, "I see you, pain. I am here with you." You'll be surprised to discover pain, once met with love and understanding, begins to soften. It no longer screams, no longer overwhelms. It starts to dissolve like morning mist beneath the sunlight of awareness. And then something miraculous happens. Pain no longer torments you. It becomes a part of you that you've embraced and transformed. In that moment, you not only begin to heal, but you become stronger than any storm life could send your way. Sitting with pain doesn't mean you have to endure it passively. It means you choose to remain awake and present within the storm of your own heart. This is the state of one who truly understands life, not seeking perfection, but learning to live fully with both light and shadow within. Remember, no path to happiness avoids pain, and the one who can sit with their pain is the one who has discovered the way to freedom. Stop reacting. Learn to respond with mindfulness. There's a subtle truth that most of us overlook. We're not truly living, we're merely reacting. Every action, every word, every emotion we express often comes not from conscious choice, but from deeply ingrained habits. Like a machine running its program, someone hurts us and we get angry. Something goes wrong and we get frustrated. A single criticism can make us feel unworthy. But is that really who we are? In my journey through Buddhist practice, I discovered a profound realization. Between stimulus and reaction, there exists a precious space. And if we can learn to live within that space, even for a fleeting moment, we will find freedom. Freedom from emotional slavery, freedom from ego, freedom from patterns that cause suffering. The Buddha taught, the mind is like a monkey leaping from branch to branch, idea to idea. When left untrained, the mind is easily controlled by the outside world. But when we begin practicing mindfulness, observing the mind, recognizing emotions, taking a deep breath before reacting, that's when we stop being victims of circumstances. We become the masters of ourselves. A mindful person is not someone who lacks emotion, but someone who knows they're angry without letting anger take over. They're aware of their pain without using that pain to hurt others. They know how to pause, breathe in, breathe out, and ask themselves, will this reaction bring me peace? Will it bring me closer to the person I truly want to be? When we react, we allow the world to control our inner state. But when we respond with awareness, we reclaim our power. We become the calm lake beneath the wind, rather than a leaf blown around by the storm. Practicing this is not easy. There will be moments when you slip, when emotions get the better of you, when you say things you regret. But don't condemn yourself. Simply return to your breath. Return to the gentle act of noticing. Each time you catch yourself before reacting, or even after reacting, and choose to return to mindfulness, you are becoming stronger, freer. The difference between reacting and responding is also the difference between living unconsciously and living with presence. One is pulled by circumstances, the other chooses how to meet them. One is a candle blown out by the wind, the other a torch lit from within. You don't have to change the whole world. You only need to change how you interact with it. And that begins with a single step. Learning to pause. Just pause before you react. In that pause, you create space for wisdom, compassion, and freedom to arise. Remember, the one who can respond mindfully in the heart of a storm is the one who has found true peace. Disciplining the mind. Each morning, planting seeds of peace at the start of your day. Each morning is a doorway to a new journey, yet sadly, most of us wake up as if being thrown into a whirlwind. Phones buzzing, notifications lighting up, to-do lists piling high. We hardly have time to take a full breath before our minds are pulled outward. And so, another day passes in haste and disconnection. For me, after more than 30 years of meditation and living within the rhythm of mindfulness, I've come to understand a core truth. The mind is like a garden, and each morning is a sacred moment to sow the very first seeds. If you don't intentionally plant peace, agitation and distraction will surely take root. Buddhism teaches that the beginning of the day should not be a race against time, but rather a ceremony of awakening. A mindful morning doesn't have to be long, but it must be sincere. Just 5 minutes, sitting in stillness, feeling your breath, touching the life pulsing within your body can be enough to bring you back to yourself. Disciplining the mind each morning isn't about forcing yourself into a rigid routine. It's about offering yourself the most precious gift, presence. In that quiet space, you might ask, how do I want to live today? What kind of energy do I wish to bring into the world? Will I choose love and peace or worry and anger? When you take time each morning to connect inwardly, you are building a solid foundation for the entire day. A mind aligned with stillness doesn't easily get shaken by external chaos. It's like a sailor checking the compass before setting sail. If you don't set your direction early, you're likely to drift in the ocean of emotions and demands. Training the mind is no different from training the body. It may be difficult at first, but with consistency, a deep transformation begins to unfold. You start to realize that you are no longer a victim of circumstance, but the creator of your lived experience from within. You might choose to meditate in silence, jot down a few lines of gratitude in a journal, read a short verse, or simply sit in the quiet and watch the morning light. Anything that helps you return to presence has value. Don't let your morning become the start of chaos. Let it be a quiet opening to a meaningful day. When you learn to gift your mind the serenity it deserves at the start of each day, you are teaching it to walk with focus, compassion, and clarity. And in doing so, no matter how noisy the world becomes, you will always have a refuge inside that cannot be shaken, your own inner peace. Letting go of what you cannot control, the art of living with ease in an uncertain world. For as long as we've existed, human beings have tried to control life. We want things to go our way, that the people we love never leave, that our careers never fail, that the weather meets our plans, that the future stays in our hands. But life rarely moves according to our desires, and in this desperate clinging for control, suffering quietly takes root. There is a timeless truth in Buddhism: everything is impermanent. What seems solid today may dissolve like morning mist tomorrow. Once we understand and accept this, the mind begins to release, not in resignation, but in a gentle surrender born from seeing the true nature of things. In over 30 years of meditation and mindful living, I have witnessed many people suffer not because of their circumstances, but because they clung to what could no longer be held. A relationship had ended, but their heart couldn't let go. An unwanted event happened, but the mind refused to accept it. A goal was missed, but guilt and self-blame lingered. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It is a conscious, awakened act of maturity, the realization that no matter how hard we try, some things are simply beyond our control. And instead of fighting the current of life, we learn to float with it, not to be swept away, but to move in harmony with it, freely and wisely. Imagine standing under the rain. You cannot command the sky to stop pouring, but you can choose how to walk. With an umbrella in hand, a soft smile on your lips, and the willingness to feel each drop as a gift from the heavens. Life is the same. You cannot control others or the world or outcomes, but you can choose how you respond, with peace, with compassion, with understanding. The Buddha once said, "There is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path." When you let go of expectations and attachment, you begin to walk more lightly. Your heart no longer carries burdens that don't belong to it. And in that lightness, you begin to receive life as it is, with gentle eyes and a quiet smile. Letting go also means forgiveness, forgiving those who've hurt you, and forgiving yourself for the mistakes you can no longer undo. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about freeing your soul from the shackles of the past. When you stop holding on to pain, you begin to heal. Life is a flowing river. You cannot force the water to stop, but you can learn to swim with the grace of someone who knows. Letting go doesn't make you weak, it sets you free. Protecting your environment. Safeguarding the purity of the mind. Human beings are creatures of environment. Whether we realize it or not, our consciousness is deeply shaped by everything we're exposed to each day. The people around us, the spaces we live in, the voices we hear, the images we see. Some things may seem trivial, but they quietly feed our anxiety, drain our energy, and slowly erode our inner strength. Since ancient times, Buddhism has emphasized the importance of kalyana mittata, spiritual companionship, and wholesome environments that support our mindfulness. In Zen tradition, there is a saying, "Live near the mud, yet remain unsullied." But to do that, one must first know where the mud lies and where the fragrance of the lotus blooms. After decades of practice, I've come to see that the mind cannot remain clear if the surrounding environment is chaotic. Just like a stream of water, if you pour filth into it, the water will never run clear. And if you're exposed daily to negativity, criticism, jealousy, and gossip, no matter how earnestly you try to stay serene, your mind will be affected. That's why a mindful person must learn to be discerning, strict yet compassionate in choosing their environment, not to isolate themselves or reject the world, but to protect a soul that longs to stay peaceful amidst the world's noise. Start with the people around you. There are those whose presence uplifts you each time you meet. Your energy rises, your heart opens, your mind calms. And then there are those after whom you feel exhausted, anxious, or weighed down by bitterness. That's not coincidence. Consciousness is highly contagious, and you have every right to choose relationships that nourish your inner stillness. Next is your physical space. A cluttered, dark, and noisy room doesn't just affect your body, it also tangles the mind. In contrast, a tidy corner filled with sunlight, the soft sound of a wind chime, or the scent of warm incense can nurture the stillness you've been seeking. The outer environment is a reflection of the inner world. Finally, examine what you consume through your eyes, ears, and thoughts. Social media, films, news, books. What are you feeding your soul? A headline full of anger, a toxic debate, or a cynical post? All of these are spiritual food you are ingesting. If you don't filter what enters your mind, you may slowly lose your clarity. The awakened person does not reject the world. They simply choose to experience it consciously. They understand that protecting the environment is not only about saving nature, it's also about preserving the sacred inner garden, where seeds of peace, compassion, and wisdom can grow if nurtured with care. Remember, you cannot grow flowers in poisoned soil. If you want a soul that blossoms with fragrance, begin by cleansing the environment you live in, breathe in, and surround yourself with each day. Remembering your true nature, staying rooted amid the many voices of the world. In this busy life, amid the hurried crowds and the endless waves of information each day, it's easy to lose ourselves. We begin to live as mere reflections of others' expectations. To be successful in this way, to be beautiful in that way, to speak, think, and live according to invisible standards set by society, family, and social media. And then, in a quiet moment, when no one is around, when the lights are off and the noise has faded, we suddenly ask ourselves, who am I? What kind of life do I truly want to live? That question is not a crisis. It is a call from the deep self within, a place that has always existed, quietly waiting for us to return. In Buddhism, the essential teaching is not to chase after appearances, but to recognize our original nature, pure, unborn, undying, neither coming nor going. That true nature is not shaken by praise or blame, success or failure. It is a quiet fire within that keeps glowing, even when storms howl outside. I often remind my meditation students, every morning is an opportunity to return and gently ask ourselves, who am I in this ever-changing world? Not in terms of career, titles, or social roles, but in the deepest qualities of the soul, compassion, mindfulness, wisdom, and a quiet faith in the path we've chosen. When you know who you are, you no longer need others to validate your worth. You're no longer swayed by compliments, nor broken by criticism. You stand firm like a pine tree in the wind, roots deep in the earth, branches reaching toward the sky. Not from stubbornness, but because you've touched the grounded strength within you. Remembering your true nature is not a mental exercise. It is a daily ritual of mindfulness. You might write affirmations and place them where you can see them. I am a bringer of peace. I live with sincerity and purpose. I am whole just as I am. You might sit in meditation each morning, listening to your inner voice instead of being directed by outer noise. The world will always have voices that try to make you forget who you are. But if you return each day, if you keep the candle lit within, then no matter how dense the darkness becomes, you will never lose your inner light. Remember, you don't need to become someone else to be worthy of love. You only need to return to the truest, kindest, and deepest version of yourself and live from that place. That is the root of all peace. The power of small daily wins, a steady path to inner strength and fulfillment. In this fast-paced era, we are often fed a false belief that success must be fast, dramatic, and impressive. We admire comeback stories and overnight successes, and in doing so, we unconsciously undervalue the quiet power of small steps, steady effort, and daily consistency. But on the path of spiritual practice and mindful living, I've come to realize all deep transformation begins with the small, and it always requires time and patience. The Buddha taught, even a small drop of water, if it falls steadily, will eventually fill the jar. Likewise, each mindful act, no matter how small, if done with sincerity each day, will build a solid foundation of inner strength. You don't need to do something grand to change your life. You only need to do something small, repeatedly, with full presence. Maybe today you sit in meditation for just 5 minutes. Maybe you write down one thing you're grateful for. Maybe you choose not to react negatively in one small situation. And yet those moments, when done over and over, will become the pillars of a calm and meaningful life. This accumulation is called the compound effect, like a seed watered every day, silently sprouting beneath the soil, even if we see nothing at first. One day it breaks through, reaches the sun, and blooms. Inner peace, confidence, and real success are no different. They're not born from grand leaps, but from a gentle persistence, step by step, day by day. The key is, don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for motivation or the right time. Begin now with one simple action, a deep breath, a soft smile to yourself, a moment of silence instead of blame. Then repeat it tomorrow, and again the day after. You are building an inner reservoir of strength that no storm can wash away. This consistency in small actions does more than produce outcomes. It shapes your character. You become someone who doesn't easily give up, someone who stands steady in the storm, someone who understands that true strength doesn't come from outside, but is patiently cultivated from within. In Buddhism, this is called living in mindfulness, being fully present in each act, whether it's washing dishes, walking, or sipping tea. Each mindful moment is a small victory, and when enough of these victories accumulate, you don't just reach your goals, you become the kind of person you've always hoped to be. Remember, a towering tree begins as a tiny seed, a mighty river begins with drops of water, and a peaceful life begins with mindful steps taken each day. Returning to the peaceful home within yourself. Life, like shifting winds, is in constant motion. There will be times when you find yourself caught in storms of loss, misunderstanding, or unexpected turns. But there will also be clear, gentle mornings when light filters through the leaves, and you feel a quiet ease within, even though nothing outside has changed. Only your inner world has. And this is precisely what the path of Buddhism invites us into. Not to control life, but to master ourselves within life's impermanence. The 7 practices you've journeyed through are not lofty philosophies reserved for monks in retreat. They are simple, practical doorways, opening daily for anyone who wishes to live with more depth and freedom. Sitting with pain to learn to see suffering as a companion, stern but faithful. Responding instead of reacting to become the master of your emotions, not their victim. Disciplining your mind each morning to sow seeds of peace for a day lived fully. Letting go of what you cannot control to move lightly like a cloud, no longer burdened by what isn't yours. Protecting your environment to nourish a sacred space of clarity in a world full of noise. Remembering your true nature so you never lose yourself in the countless voices of the world. Accumulating small daily wins to realize that fulfillment isn't a destination, but a patient return to your truest self. When these become your breath, your habit, your foundation, then no matter how unpredictable the world becomes, you are like bamboo in the wind, flexible, grounded, and unbreakable. Don't seek steadiness from the outer world, for the outer world is always shifting. Return within to the place where a quiet home resides, untouched by the storms. And from that place, you will step into each day with clarity in your eyes, compassion in your breath, and a quiet yet unshakable confidence that you can live a life that nothing can disturb.